spent the last hour before stream like watching Mike Tyson fights, and I seen the McNeely fight, and then he had a fight in the 2010s, I believe. And at the end of his fight, he said basically like he feel like he didn't have the passion or like the fighting spirit per se to like keep going, and he didn't want to disrespect the sport of boxing by losing to like lower tier caliber of boxers. So when you take into account that that was like 15 years ago, how much more of a drive at 58 does an aged Mike Tyson really have? I don't know. I think we're gonna see. I mean, we just seen him get slapped. Honestly, we seen Jake Paul get slapped in that video, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I think honestly, as the fight gets closer, I'm getting a little bit more confidence for Mike, and I think that he could be potentially, you know, winning this fight and getting the upper hand. But for the most part, I think Jake Paul is definitely about to sleep him, bro. I think it's about to be unfortunate on all ends. I don't even think this should be a fight, bro. Personally, I think that Jake Paul should fight Floyd like his brother did. Like I don't think anybody's worried about Floyd's health. Like if he were to fight somebody, because he does exhibitions all the time. But Mike's last exhibition was, I think, against Roy Jones, if I'm not mistaken. And you guys can look up those highlights if you want, for sure. We watched those on stream the other day. But I mean, even comparing the Roy Jones fight, which was an exhibition, to Mike's last pro fight, I don't know. I just don't think it looks too good for Mike. I don't know. But if I had to make like an official prediction, it is an 8-round fight, and this is a pro sanctioned fight. This Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight is a pro sanctioned fight. It's not an exhibition. So, and apparently in an interview, Mike Tyson was the one who pushed for that. So I'm not sure why it should be a pro fight per se. I think it should be an exhibition just given Mike Tyson's age. I don't think anybody really wants to see Mike get hurt at all. In fact, I think if Mike gets knocked out, Jake is going to become like the most hated person on the earth. Even more so than he already is, bro. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's just a lose-lose situation overall for Jake. Like, I don't understand. Like, I know I'm supposed to be giving my take, but like it's just like, bro, like it's like beating up a guy in like, I don't want to say a wheelchair, but like, bro, like it's fighting an old guy. Like if you win, like you beat an old guy, but if you lose, then you lost to an old guy. So I mean, like, is there really a win here? I don't know. I personally don't think there's really that much of an upside to this fight at all, other than the money. It is historic in the fact that it's a super fight on Netflix. Like, this is about to go crazy. I heard both of them are getting like 40 mil or something, which is wild. And I don't know. That's just like the first super fight. Netflix usually does like the comedies and stuff, like with Dave Chappelle and everything, that are like live. So like this is gonna be like the first fight that's actually live, which is pretty crazy. Both of them just fight wash boxers. Now they're them taking legit fights against good opponents. Yeah. I mean, Tommy Fury was clearly Jake Paul's hardest fight for sure to this date. He's just been cherry picking a lot of his fights for sure, but from a marketing standpoint and just like being able to sell pay-per-views, like being a prize fighter, I mean, he's doing pretty good for himself. I mean, he's driving up the hype and everything. It just kind of is like I don't want to say scummy way to do it, but I mean, fighting Anderson Silva when he's old, Mike Tyson, everybody, I don't know. But my official prediction for the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight is I think Jake's for sure winning this. I think, and that's gonna be my official prediction is he wins this. I don't know a specific round, but like I don't know, bro. I'm just like, I want Jake to win, but like I don't want Mike to get fucked up, bro. Cause like imagine Mike gets fucked up and like gets seriously hurt out there, bro. Like that's gonna be terrible. Like that's gonna be terrible. Like, and you know Jake's gonna try and win too, bro. He's not just gonna go out there and like lay down. But neither is Mike. I just think there's too much of a risk for Mike and his health, especially with them calling off the fight. I don't know if like fighting would trigger an ulcer flare up. I'm pretty sure that's why he pulled out earlier in the year, but I don't know, bro. I think that Jake's going to win, and I just hope if Mike gets knocked out, it's not crazy. I think that if Mike even gets like knocked down like 2 or 3 times, I think they should just call the fight, bro. Um I don't think even though this is like a crazy big fight, like he doesn't need to get knocked down like 5 times. Like he doesn't need to get knocked down 5 times. Like he's so old. Like it's just gonna physically not be well for him. Yeah, Mike's probably gonna do good in the first few rounds. I agree with you. Um, I think he's gonna come out strong in the first few rounds, but I think he's gonna gas. The only thing is Jake Paul always lets his opponents back in the fight, like every time. So like Jake Paul comes out strong too, and then he falls off after like the third round. So the only thing is like Jake Paul's 20 years younger. He's gonna have that stamina. He's gonna come out strong. I think Jake's gonna be on the back foot most of the fight. I think Tyson is gonna come out of the gate and just try and smother him. Um, but yeah, I think Jake's gonna try and lure him into that overhand right for sure, and try and catch him with it. And Mike's gonna be throwing crazy, trying to hit him with combos and stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The only thing, like I said, is like Jake is like what 30 years younger, so he's gonna. If they had to reach in the reserve tank, like Jake's gonna have more to pull from in that reserve tank of like, all right, I gotta dig deep and I gotta get this. Like, yeah, Mike has been a boxer his whole life and all that, but like, you know what I'm saying? Father time is a crazy thing, bro. It really is. And like, it's like me versus like myself when I was in my athletic prime. Like, I would not want to race myself when I was in my athletic prime versus the version I am right now. Like, the fight is tomorrow, and then the UFC event for John Jones and Stipe is on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Most likely, I think that I don't know. I could give some other predictions too, like Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. I watched their last fight too. That was actually super close. Two very very talented boxers for sure. Um, Katie Taylor ended up winning their last fight over Amanda Serrano. Super close though. They're running it back. I think they are co-main event, or they might be like right under the main event. But yeah, I do think that Amanda Serrano is gonna win this fight this time. Hopefully they can do a trilogy. Honestly, I don't really like Katie Taylor. I don't know, for some reason she just gives like weird vibes to me. But Amanda Serrano seems cool. She kind of bad too. I'm not gonna lie. That's not the only reason I like her. She's got hands. But yeah, I'd like to see Amanda Serrano win. Them do a trilogy fight. Um, and go from there. I don't really know anybody else on the other card per se. Um, but yeah. Let me look real quick. I think the John Jones Stipe fight is for sure on Saturday. That's gonna be a crazy fight. Everybody's been saying that John Jones has been ducking Tom Aspinall. Let me look this up real quick. John Jones ducks interview. He left an interview earlier today, and basically he got asked to do an interview. This right here, and he walked in and like heard everybody, I guess, and then he just walked straight out of the he walked straight out of the room and said, all right, I think I know, like, common sense is kind of telling me that, you know, the type of questioning that's going to go on. So he just totally went out of the interview.
Jon Jones is
See
now
if they got it right
officially
here.
ducking interviews. Jon Jones recently.
But yeah, that Jon Jones fight's going to be good. I think Jon is going to be in mint condition, top tier. He's one of the greatest. I think he's the best. I haven't really watched the early days of the UFC, but I think he's the GOAT for sure. I think he just has such a methodical approach of the way he approaches his opponents, really studies their game, and just destroys them, bro, for real. Like, all right, let's play this clip real quick.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Guys, doing well.
You okay?
Doing well.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Good, man. Good. Have a seat, sir.
How you guys in? But
Hey, I'm not gonna do this interview. You don't want to do it? No, because it's gonna be an Aspinall fest. I'm not gonna. Come on, let's go.
So he's saying it's going to be an Aspinall fest. So he just turns around, walks out, which is crazy because everybody's already accusing him of ducking Aspinall. Which, I mean, I don't know. Would you stay in an interview if, like, you're fighting somebody and then they ask you about, like, a completely other person? I don't know. I see it both sides, but, like, at the same time, like, come on, answer a question or two about Aspinall. Who cares? If anything, this drives up the hype for the Aspinall fight even more, in my opinion. Because he's leaving and, like, causing, like, this certain type of drama, you know? Like, he could have just answered the questions and kept it moving, but he's, like, being a little extra with it, you know?
I see how close you guys are, and common sense tells me what type of questions I was gonna get asked. So I'm just like,
give it sounds it.
speak to you want to speak. Thank you. Thank you.
Jon Jones's beef with Tom Aspinall.
All right. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that Aspinall should get a chance. He's the interim champ right now. Jon Jones is you know, holding the heavyweight title. So I think that the next logical fight for him is Aspinall if he doesn't retire. But I just hope that he doesn't retire and keeps going. I don't know. It'd be cool to see him versus Pereira too. I don't know how that would work out. Honestly, I think that Pereira would really get mauled and really, really struggle against Jon Jones. I don't think Pereira has any ground game whatsoever. And personally, bro, if they were to go head to head, I feel like I've said personally like 70 times. I apologize. Yeah, I think I don't know. Forgot where I was going with that. Fuck. So yeah, I don't know. I think I remember now. So Pereira, we haven't really seen him against like a good grappler. Like I don't know if I've ever seen him up against a good grappler. I'm not gonna lie. Like he versus Izzy, who doesn't really have a ground game. He goes for like the kicks and like the kind of like the counters and stuff. And then you have Strickland. I didn't watch a lot of Pereira's like early on fights, but like we can look up his record real quick too. I just don't think we've seen him against anybody that can wrestle, bro. I think everybody's just trying to stand up with him. And then it's people like again, to your point, Seb, like Sugar Sean, like if people are gonna like try and like only stand up with you and you never get tested with your ground game, like you look good, but until somebody tests your ground game. My thoughts on Sugar Sean are I like him as a fighter, I think. I think he's a good fighter. I don't know if I like his personality too much. I don't know. He's got like an open relationship with like his wife and stuff, and I don't know. I don't know if I really fuck with like his personality, but like his fighters, he's a good fighter for sure. and I enjoy watching him. But he definitely needs to get his ground game under control. That Merab fight, I bet my coworker at work that Merab was gonna win, and I ended up winning, obviously. But he needs to work on his ground game. He needs to work on his ground game. I don't even think if he got that rematch with Merab, it would be a difference at all. I think he'd get ragdolled again. I don't know. I think he just got exploited, bro. Personally, like, I don't know. I knew it was gonna happen though. As soon as Merab was against him, like, I didn't think there was any doubt that like he would lose. But everybody thought that Merab was gonna get starched and stuff. And I mean, maybe, but I mean, I feel like when Sean came out there, personally, like, he looked a little nervous in the walkout, and then I don't know. He was definitely feeling the pressure. Like, I don't think he was scared or anything, but I think he was like a little nervous. Like, I think the nerves were hitting him a little bit because just the way he looked when he went out there. Like, that's what I watch when the UFC fighters go out, is just how they look, their demeanor, and whoever looks like more scared, like, I feel like usually like loses. Like, when when they back up to the cage and like they're looking over, like, I don't know. I think maybe that's why that Yuri Prohaskov and Alex Pereira stare down was so popular, because like neither of them like were showing any emotion. They just both looked like they wanted to kill each other. Even though I knew Yuri was gonna lose, that's another person that Alex Pereira's fought that's had no ground game at all. He just tries to. Yuri Prohaskov just tried to strike against Alex Pereira, and it did not work out well for him. But now you get, I think, and I'm pretty sure this is a different weight class, but let's say Islam Makhachev moves up divisions, or you give Hamzat Pereira, bro, Pereira's losing 100%. Probably 100%. Because he just doesn't have any grappling, bro. And that's why all those Dagestanian people are so popular in the UFC right now, is just because their training regimen on their grappling is so rigorous, and they just pound it into them, bro. And it's just ingrained in them. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's why, like I said, like, when you're standing up and everybody's like, yeah, I think I can knock you out for sure, but like, really, like, all you have to do is hit the double leg. You know what I'm saying? Because then you drag them down. Like, that's why I think John Jones would give Pereira a hard time. I don't think he would give Aspinall a hard time, though. I think John Jones, the way that he's dodging Aspinall is really kind of methodical and smart at the end of the day, because that's his hardest fight for sure. If he wants a money fight, he definitely needs to go with Pereira. But if he wants the legacy fight, then he needs to go with Aspinall. That's what I think about that for sure. Yeah.
What? Oh, we had good intentions with them. They didn't work out. People weren't happy with them.
Hey, Bose, could anybody understand a word that he said? Records. Why is the belts?
Charles Oliveira is probably fighting this weekend too. He's a pretty good fighter, I'm not gonna lie. However, I do think he needs to retire, bro. This might be like a hot take or whatever, but I don't think Charles Oliveira should still be in the UFC. I think he is past his prime for sure. I think he versed Arman Tazukian his last fight, and lost, which is an Armenian guy. Shout out to Armenia, But yeah, I don't know. I think that he's like just getting up there in age. He's just had so many fights, and personally, I don't think that the UFC needs like older stars like that. I think that the UFC is going through a change right now, especially with Sean O'Malley and people like that. Izzy, Kamaru Usman. I'm pretty sure Usman has a fight coming up too, but if you look at Volkanovski, like there's a total hierarchy change going on in the UFC. And I think that's because I don't know if I believe in agendas for sports or anything, but the smart thing to do if I were a businessman would be to give the aging legends maybe a Tom Aspinall to see what happens. Because if Tom Aspinall wins, that elevates him when Jones retires. You know what I'm saying? And there's their next star right there. So I think the UFC is just getting a bunch of new stars right now. They got Marab, they got Islam, they got Hamzat, a bunch of people, Pereira. Jones is on his way out, but he's a legend for sure. They got Sean O'Malley for sure. He just needs to bounce back. They got a bunch of people that can do a lot of good things, but they just need to give it some time, I guess, and see where the UFC goes. One person I haven't heard anything about is Colby Covington the last few months. I haven't heard anything about him at all. I feel like he's taken like a whole year off, which is crazy.
For John Jones as the pound-for-pound greatest of all time. Has that affected your mindset during the build-up, and what are your honest thoughts on Dana singing your opponent's praises?
Listen, I train just as hard as anyone else.
John, do you have any reactions to the...
Bro, what kind of answer is that? I train as hard as anybody else. Dana's like, come on, bro. What the fuck?
The praises that Dana's been saying for you back and forth during the build-up?
I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for the compliment. I've been here for a long time. I've beat generations of fighters, and I believe Dana knows what he's talking about. So I'm grateful for it, and I try to live up to it with every performance.
Just a quick one for Michael Chandler as well. Earlier this week, you talked about how you were looking forward to fighting at 170. When you think about that division, which matchup intrigues you the most?
I'm not really thinking about 170 right now. Unfortunately, I'm under 170 as we speak. So Saturday night, we fight at 155. We cement ourselves as the #1 contender, and I win that belt in 2025. There's a lot of fun matchups up there. I'm a big lightweight. I enjoyed the camp.
This dude talks so much, but like, bro, I'm not gonna lie to you. He just goes out and fights, and he just turns. Michael Chandler just turns into a complete punching bag, and I don't know why. Like, if you watch the end of his fights, like, he just, bro, he just looks like a battered fish, like, at the end, bro. Like, literally, you take a salmon in your hands like the Hulk did Loki, and that's what Michael Chandler looks like at the end of a fight, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, sometimes it'd be bad too, and he got kind of hoed. Michael Chandler got hoed out of like some good time in his career waiting for that McGregor fight, and I don't know why he took it. I think that's a whole other situation I don't really know too much about, but Conor McGregor needs to get released from the UFC, and I think the UFC is intentionally not giving him his last few fights to keep him in contract. For what reason, I have no clue. But personally, I think Conor McGregor needs to be out of the UFC, bro. There's so many other things he could do. I know he wants that fight with Nate Diaz. I think they need to do a trilogy. I think that he should fight Jake Paul for sure. That'd be fun. Maybe a rematch against Floyd, but Floyd's getting old. Who knows? I don't know, bro. There's a lot of directions the UFC can go. The next few years, the UFC is really about to turn up for sure.
For 170, but right now we're focused on 155 and that 155 lightweight title.
Thank you.
You next, sir? Go ahead.
Absolutely, thank you. Question for John Jones. John, you've just heard the reaction from the crowd and Dana's reaction of what they expect next in the heavyweight division. I know that you've given answers this week that don't align, obviously, and hopefully at one point we might get aligned. If we don't get aligned, Saturday night realistically could be the last dance. So with that in question, and it is the last time that we see you inside the UFC octagon, how do you want these good people to remember your time in the UFC?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I want to be remembered as a guy who came, saw, and conquered. Simple as that.
Yo, just play the fucking song Praise the Lord by Skepta and A$AP Rocky. I came, I saw. Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you. John Jones is one of the greatest for sure. I hope that he doesn't retire after this next fight for sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
A question for Michael Chandler. Michael, Conor McGregor will most likely be watching on Saturday. Do you want to use this performance to send a message to Conor?
I've got absolutely no message for Conor McGregor. I'm 100% focused on Charles Oliveira. Conor McGregor can't get his house in order long enough to figure out how to string together a training camp to show up to the UFC octagon and do what guys like I and Charles Oliveira do multiple times a year. So he can enjoy it from wherever he's enjoying it from. We'll keep the octagon warm while he's out.
Wow. That's a crazy response. I'm not gonna lie to you. What the fuck? I like to see it though. I need that energy from Michael Chandler. And now that we know that Michael Chandler's versing Charles Oliveira, we can make a prediction. I think that Michael Chandler beats Charles Oliveira. I think he's probably going to knock out Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler has very good wrestling. He just doesn't use it because he's one of the people, like I was talking about earlier, that likes to stand up. But he has good grappling. Like if he used his grappling, he would probably be like a lot better off for sure with what he's trying to do. And why I say that he's going to win is I think that he has more punching power than Charles Oliveira. I think he has the ability to like really knock somebody out. And he has grappling. I think Charles Oliveira is more focused on grappling. I don't think he has great striking in my opinion. I do think it's probably going to come down to grappling or Michael Chandler is going to knock him out for sure. But if it comes down to grappling, I think Chandler can scramble out of that and get back to his feet for sure. And then the real question is, can Oliveira really answer Chandler's fists and stand-up game? Because the ground and pound game is even in my eyes, even though everybody views Oliveira as like a prodigy, you know?
Another one for John Jones. John, DC recently came out and said you and him will most likely never be on good terms. Since he may be calling your last fight, do you ever want to bury the hatchet with DC?
Yeah, I love to bury the hatchet with DC. You know, literally every time I see him, I try to give him a smile. I try to give him a handshake. And I don't think I just recently found out he doesn't like that very much. So I think I'll just give him a little friendly wave from a distance from now on. That's all over for me a long time ago. I'm sure.
Bro, that's so funny that DC held on to that. DC's still mad, bro. When did they fight? When did John Jones fight DC, bro? Hold on. John Jones, DC 1. UFC 214. January 3rd, 2015. That's 9 years later, chat. 9 years later that he still held on to that grudge. That's wild.
There's a lot of guys, a lot of former opponents that really don't like me, and that's a part of doing what I do.
And last one for Dana. Just to clarify your opinion on this for the fans at Madison Square Garden. Who is the pound-for-pound number one in the UFC, and who is the greatest of all time?
Listen, it is my belief that as long as this guy is active, he's the best. He's the pound-for-pound best in the world, and he's the greatest of all time.
Thank you.
Imagine you're Stipe, bro. Imagine you're Stipe and your fucking boss just says that about your opponent, bro. Like, that's actually crazy.